Welcome, listeners, to this special podcast recording of Tabo Mabo initiative. Informal waste workers are essential to the circular economy and in addressing the plastic waste crisis. Yet, they often face systemic injustice, including survival incomes, poor health, and exploitation. A just transition requires practical pathways to improve their livelihoods. Practical pathways embedded in system change is what Tabo Mabo stands for. We are joined by three warriors in the journey of a just transition, Eric, Hassan, and Paul. They all made it their mission to create prosperity for informal waste workers in Nairobi, Kenya. Among other, at a dump site in Nairobi, which offers a job to up to 500 workers, however, under challenging conditions. This podcast is meant to shed some light on how the workers on a dump site in Nairobi are connected to the water bottle with recycled content you buy in a grocery store, and how we can all contribute to a just transition, one livelihood at a time. I'm your host, Alina Marm, action researcher and corporate tree hugger, aka sustainability professional. And it is an honor to hand the word to my guest for a quick introduction. And maybe, Eric, let's start with you. Could you please introduce yourself and how you are connected to the Mukuru Dumpsite?
Thank you. From Kenya, and I'm working with actors because being one of the communities that I work closely with. Connected to the waste because waste is my first subject, and literally, let me say, I'm actually engaged within the waste ecosystem. And that means being exposed and working closely with all the waste actors across the waste ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Paul, over to you.
Okay. My name is Paul Onyango. I'm the Secretary General of Mukuru Dumpsite. The CBO here being Garden Express Recycling. Here, we deal with waste which can be taken back to the factory and be used to manufacture other products after being used. For example, if we take the polythene paper, once it has been used, when it comes here, we sort it, then it's taken to the factory for recycling. Same to plastic and even to metal. So that's what we deal with here. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And Hassan, over to you.
Southward. The Mukuru Dumpsite forms vast of the Nairobi South expansive area, and most of its waste end up in Mukuru Dumpsite. Mukuru Dumpsite is also part of our rigid and fragmented mismanagement system in our locality that is untapped, uncoordinated, and not well managed to create green jobs and to tap to the green economy. Lastly, Mukuru Dumpsite form part of our larger Tabo Mabo program that we are undertaking that seeks to establish a research to STEM approach and systems to impact assessment. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining in today. And dear listeners, everybody's dialing in from Kenya while I'm in Germany, so please be lenient with some sound quality issues now and then. The research shows that workers face major prosperity gaps in income and health. Earnings are often below basic needs levels. Daily income is around €2.80 at the dump site in Mukuru, with women reporting lower earnings than men. These gaps are reinforced by poor health and income insecurity, as dump site workers lose an average of 42 workdays per year to health problems. And around 60% report mental health-related issues, while stigma, harassment, and few pathways to upward mobility limit longer-term prosperity. Paul, can you describe what this means as a daily lived experience? So how does that data translate into what workers experience on the dump site?
The problem that I used to be, it brings negative change in the lives of the people Because when people get little money, they will not be able to afford them. They'll not be able to give their children the basic needs that their children need. For example, quality education. They cannot also live well in the society. Their children cannot even get better clothing. In general, it makes them not in a position to provide their families with the required basic needs. Secondly, when this arises, you'll find that the most affected people are women. Because you'll find that in the area where the dump site is, most of the women cannot come very early in the morning compared to men. So you'll find that men will come early and they start to work early. This makes them to get more. When women will come, they find that when men have taken most of the things that even women should have taken. So it makes women to get very little in terms of wages. Another thing that I want to say, because of the insecurity in the area, sometimes you find that women never come to work on a daily basis, especially during this time in Kenya when the political situation is not all that stable. You'll find that in most cases, women do not come to work and men come. So you'll find that our women end up getting very little money. And this also makes them to be in a position that does not even make them to be able to get the things they require in their life. Especially as women, we have things that they need that men don't need. So they don't get this. So we are very much concerned about this because when things can be put in a well-organized manner, each and every person will be getting what he or she should get. At the same time, when we talk about, that is as far as security so far concerned, when we talk about other things like the health, when we talk on the side of health, we find that most of our people who get injured when they're working because they don't have the right PPEs to be used. We find that people don't have the right footwear to put on when they are working. So most of our people do get injured, some by broken bottles. We find that our people even don't have gloves. So we find that when they are working, some of them do get injured because during the sorting or segregation period, you'll find that most of the things are handled by hands. And you see they handle these things using their bare hands. So we find that they get a lot of injuries. So that's another problem that our people are facing. As far as another issue is so far concerned, the mental health, we find that in the dump site that we are working in, so many things come in. We have got industrial waste, we have got household waste. So you'll find that our people sometimes, because there's no proper education that has been done to them, you'll find that some of our people do take some of the things that are coming to the site they consume. And this happens because I can say some people are not well informed. Some take them because of maybe of poverty. And we believe that when we can, in an organized way, we can educate our people so that they can know what they are supposed to do at any given time, what they should not take, and what they should take. But in general, things that come at the dump site are things that are not supposed to be consumed. They are things that are supposed to be sorted and taken for further reprocessing in the factories. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I think the last sentence leads over really well to making the connection between the workers at the dump site that you talked about and our global circular economy systems. How would you describe the role of workers at the Mukuru Dumpsite in the ambition of a just and circular economy transition? Eric, could you take that one?
Yes, please. What my brothers are doing from the element of GBV at the house level. So gender-based violence escalates once the price relaxation happens. So the other thing is also the exploitation by different upstreams and downstreams. So you have governments exploiting the waste workers. You have got also the private sector, the upstream clients exploiting the waste pickers based on the price model. And because of lack of bare minimum prices per waste streams, then the conversation become a little bit do I say exploiting? Whereby if we had standardized pricing for each and every product, let me use the word product that comes from the dump site, then some of these challenges they have mentioned would have been capped. Going to your question, Ambi, may you please repeat it, please?
Yeah, absolutely. How would you describe the role of the workers at the dump site in the ambition of a just and circular economy transition? So how are the people we've just talked about, that work on the dump site linked to often global ambitions to move towards more circular economy systems and material streams?
Thank you. They are part and parcel of the circular economy. Well, even before the circular conversation gained traction, they were doing marvelous work in terms of decarbonizing the environment. That is, trying as much as possible to ensure that the closed loop was efficient and effective. However, in the just circular economy, there is need for them to be at the center, at the table, in this conversation of just circular economy, because not only are you looking at the economic aspect of it, but there's also the social aspect and the environmental aspect. The unfortunate part is the concentration is more of the pricing, what gets in, what gets out, or more or less on the economic side, but rarely do we cover in details about their social aspects, as much as we talk about the environment. So in this conversation, aspects such as mentioned by my brother here, access to health, access to education, and access to the well-being of the community itself, not just the community, but the individual, need to be prioritized when you talk about social and just inclusive circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And I think one other point that was part of what you elaborated on is there is no circular economy without the informal waste workers at the dump sites and small recycling yards. And as we've seen, it's far from just. What the working conditions are far from just and fair currently. Of course, a lot is. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Paul or Eric.
That is because go on with their working and trying to decarbonize the environment. Remember, they are working under open space. So the element of the weather, as we are doing this, the weather is about to change. So we are hoping and praying by the time it has changed, that is raining, we will have done by this purpose. So if there was space for them, a shade for them to work, even in such circumstances, that would have made their working environment much conducive, other than just closing earlier than expected and going back home. And yet sometimes they may even fail to deliver on orders placed by their clients. Thank you.
Yeah, really good addition. I think we'll return to sort of what can make work better towards the end of our conversation. And maybe just to think a little bit about how in the past have people tried improving the livelihoods. In 2024, thanks to funders who are hopefully also listening in today, we were able to support more than 300 women on the dump site by providing, for example, personal protection equipment, diapers for children, and feminine hygiene products. Can you explain a bit what this support meant to the women on the dump site back in 2024? And Hassan, I'll give the word to you because you were our partner in crime, the best crime at that time.
Yeah, so I remember vividly. So in summary, we impacted around 101 women in the financial year of 2024-2025 year. We dispatched 2,314 packets of sanitary pads and 6,800 pieces of diaper over a span of 1 year for every month to the women at the dump site. So this support went a long way in our short-term goals of providing first-hand support and ramping up support to the women. Yeah, so this support also help women increase their income, as some of the most cost-intensive expenses, diapers for their children, and also the PPEs help them to avoid illness and diseases due to exposure. As Eric and Paul have just said, most of these workers at the dump site work without the requisite PPEs, making them predisposed to diseases and illnesses. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Hassan. I think the numbers are very impressive. And maybe because I'm the only female participant in this recording, maybe I can just add a bit of perspective how much it means or how much it takes away from your mental load if you know that you have diapers in place, but also feminine hygiene products. If you don't have them, it means you constantly need to think about what alternative materials could I use. You might source them from places that are actually not safe, putting you at even higher health risks than you already normally are. So these essential items really mean that the women can live up to their full capacity and capability, and it means a lot. Even though, of course, it's only the first line of defense, and we always try to also induce more systematic change. Despite all the good and all the excitement we had back then, the reality is also that since we started the support of the dump site, the workers were faced with many setbacks. Can you explain what happened sort of in 2024, 2025, and also this year, and what this means to the workers? And Hassan, maybe we'll start with you, and you can give a few examples of the setbacks that we saw.
Yeah, so the first setback we had back then was the evacuation and forceful demolition by the county government officials stemming from land ownership of the dump site. So that was one of the major setbacks that really put us back. The other issue was little to no work due to the county officials arresting any vehicle coming to offload waste at the dump site. So this really took back the activities at the dump site to a standstill and to a stalemate. Yeah.
Paul, maybe you can add what else were challenges you were facing?
Well, the main problem that we faced there was when we were invaded by the county government, and we were supposed to leave the site. But luckily enough, the person who was in charge during that time, reshuffle was done and he was removed. And the guy who took over from him called us, and he told us that we can work. He has allowed us to work, provided that we ensure that the river is clean and we don't contaminate the road. So today we don't have any problem. As here I'm speaking to you, the clearing of the site has been on, and they're removing the excess waste to Dandora. So right now we don't have a problem with the county government. County government has permitted us to work now, and we are working without any problem, provided that we follow the rules and regulations that they have given to us.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. Maybe just for our listeners, the Dandora site you mentioned is the only licensed dump site in Nairobi, a sort of landfill, where a lot of the waste in the unlicensed dump sites like Mukuru is then transferred if things go well. And maybe also just to make it very clear for our listeners what it means if a dump site, if you're not allowed to work on the dump site anymore, it means that people instantly lose their jobs and their income. And also they're dispersed quite a bit, and then a new community has to form. We have to hope that the people come back to build that community. Eric, anything from your side you want to add?
there had been given orders, demands by their clients to fulfill. So along the way, they used not only money, but also materials, which were funds. Something else where we are is that there are opportunities that have emerged since then. The implementation of the EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. I will say it is a blessing in the middle of crisis because, as mentioned earlier, about standardized in pricing. There is that discussion that is ongoing, whereby even without selling, or even there will be prices that will be there for each and every material that will come out of a landfill or dump site. The other thing is that the EPR is also bringing on board collaborative engagement, both with the national government, NEMA, and the waste pickers. So, as regards to some of the issues that we alluded to, there is the opportunity to implement, or rather to have solutions for each through stakeholder engagement. So where we are, I can say in the near future, through the engagement that has been initiated both by NEMA, the county government, and also many the PROs, the future looks bright. Thank you. I hope it will be part of this thing, not the enduring.
Eric, we presented what always made working with all of you so inspiring is the continued optimism. So thank you for bringing that in. For our listeners, EPR is Extended Producer Responsibility, and it's a legal framework that makes the companies putting products on the market that turn to waste also responsible for their recovery and also financing that recovery. And maybe just to add, sort of in all those in that time, there were also floodings which demolished and some of the informal housing that the workers lived in. There were actually government-induced demolishments of housing. So not only do you lose your job, at the same time you might also lose your housing. And it was also amidst sort of political turmoil because of a tax reform that increased the tax rates and thus prices for sort of staple goods. And of course, there was the Ukraine war that started, which created economic pressure. So really, really challenging environment for the livelihood support that we tried to support, and yet even more important to hear the optimism that is still coming through. So it takes much resilience to always come back and keep on going. And I pull my hat every time. From your perspective, what are the things that would help the workers most right now? Paul, maybe you can describe what is needed at the moment most urgently.
No, thank you. Now, what is needed at the moment, and which is very much urgent, the workers at the dump site need personal protective equipment, because this is what will ensure their safety during work. As we speak now, most of the people here are working with shoes which are not recommended for this type of work. And nearly all of them are working with bare hands. And you find that in such a situation, they end up getting injuries. And these injuries make them, sometimes they even don't come to work the following day. Some even spend weeks at home while still recovering. That is the short-term thing that I want to say is needed. We need the gumboots for them to put on so that they can work. They cannot work with bare feet. We need gloves so that they cannot work with bare hands. And at the same time, we need overalls. Another thing that we need that can be taken as a long term. We need in future that if we can proceed well, we can come to a point whereby we will be doing value addition for ourselves, so that whatever we'll be selling something that has been processed to a certain level. And this will increase the income that we will be getting. When this can happen, it will also create employment opportunity for more people. Because, for example, if you can have something like a crusher here at the site, or a crusher that is owned by the CBO, so you find that when people collect plastic at the site, they go and grind it or crush it, so they sell it in form of chips. This is known as value addition. So it means that the price of this will go up. So those such type of things are the things that we want. Another thing that we want, we need something like a baler, so that the brown cartons that are collected at the site should not be sold when they are loose. They should be sold when they are in bales. See, when they're sold when they're in bales, they fetch good price. This makes even those people who are working at the site can get good money. So that is what we need, and we pray that the prayer of the people at the site is that they get these things when one day they get these things so that they can work well.
To add to Paul's point, there is need also to consider or reconsider setting up a material recovery facility that has rooms for changing, that has room for storage, that has rooms for training, and that has room for whereby lactating mothers could retreat and take care of their children. As mentioned earlier, the working condition here is open air, so there is no roof. Even if it rains right now, most of the workers will retrieve, and maybe some of them will close down their working station and go back. But imagine if there is a roof, a shade, whereby these materials are put in and the value of it still remain uninterrupted. When they are rent on, the value goes down, and that loses their sources of income. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for elaborating on this, and I think it shows really nicely that support. Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead, Paul.
Just there is one lady who works with us here. I think she can even greet you. You will be able to see her.
Yeah, we don't have any visual in the podcast recording, but we can maybe add it later on. Hi, Rose. Thank you for joining us on such short notice.
Okay, thank you, Alina.
And I think we heard your child in the background.
It has gone well, and we believe that we will proceed with this process well, and by the will of God, I think we will achieve all that we want to achieve. That's my prayer.
Yep. And yeah, and I think we can echo that prayer. And one thing I really want to highlight for our listeners, based on the examples that you gave, what support is needed. This is not about handouts. It's really about giving the people that work there a chance to make the most of their work. So really this idea of working hard, but also getting the right reward for your work and not being exploited, and being smart about it. I mean, adding value to the material that you collect gives you higher market prices, and therefore better income. And I think this is really important to understand. We heard the term CBO a few times now in the recording or in the conversation, which stands for community-based organization. And these are really a stronghold in the communities to support. And Hassan is leading one of the CBOs that was really important, or is really important for Tabo Mabo, called Latewa. And Paul just founded the CBO for the workers at the dump site. Hassan, could you maybe explain a little bit more how critical and how important the role of CBOs is, but also what they struggle with in fulfilling their mission?
Yeah, so right. CBOs in Kenya form most of the grassroots organizations at the world level. So the world level is the lowest level in our government administration approach. Hence, giving communities the much needed representation and feedback from the people mostly targeted and affected by the problem. Most CBOs are formed with community members undertaking a similar undertaking that is geared towards helping them and their immediate communities. So CBOs help in bringing the much needed organizational and managerial skills normally required when dealing with diverse community that have their ways of doing things. So CBOs struggle with capacity to fully transform to viable enterprises that translate to the much needed capital investment that they need. CBOs also struggle with access to finance in terms of funding and grants, and much of its organizational structure is informal. This makes funders get to have CBOs as basically participants rather than equal and integral players. Another thing is most donors focuses on trainings and skillings, neglecting locally led innovations and capacity enhancement, such as equipments that Paul was talking about for value addition, and also land, because land is a very, very important factor in all this. Yes, we can have programs, but if we can't consider land, the whole program becomes obsolete, which is very structural to prosperity. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for elaborating on that. Maybe just also from my perspective, working with Latewa as a CBO, but also some others during the research, there's no better source and no better partner to really get a feeling for what is needed in that community, on that community, in that grassroots movement. And to be honest, everybody we've worked with among CBOs, they're usually from the community and they really care about what happens to their brothers and sisters. So in terms of trust, I think there's probably many big NGOs I trust less than most of the local CBOs. So thank you for all the work that you've been doing. We're coming to an end of this podcast. So I want to try to wrap things up by asking each of you if there's one thing you would want the listener to take away from this conversation, what would it be? So the one most important thing. And Hassan, why don't we start with you? Very well. Hassan is collecting his thoughts. I'll hand to Eric. What is the one thing that you would want our listeners to take away from this conversation?
One thing is that waste management is not complete without waste pickers. Waste pickers are the heavy lifters when it comes to waste management. So therefore, in waste-related conversation, waste pickers should and must be at the table, whereby they discuss their own challenges rather than someone else speaking about them. So it is critical for them to walk this journey together. That means reaching out to their father, reaching out to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Paul, what is the one thing that you want our listeners to take away?
What I'd like our listeners mostly to put into consideration, at any dump site or anything, in any waste business, we have what the people who are working there, and these are the waste pickers. These people, their health is very much predominant. Their health is very much important. So anybody who is working in a dump site or anybody who is involved in waste management should have the PPEs so that when they work when they are safe. Secondly, we should come to a point whereby any dump site, we should have something like a first aid kit so that if one gets an injury, he should be attended first at the dump site before he or she is taken to the hospital for further medical care. So the PPEs are very much important, and first aid kits are also very much important at any working area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. And then Hassan, once over to you for the final words of this conversation.
Yeah, so one thing I would want the listener to take away from this conversation is that there is a program called Tabo Mabo that is based in Nairobi, Kenya, working with different network members from the West Space and focuses on transforming communities by using a research-based strategy to a system-led approach with impact assessment performance. And we are currently looking for partners, donors, or financing to scale this program. So you can support us through the GoFundMe link. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Hassan, for those final words. So we have contribution of waste workers, importance of safety and health, and then Hassan sort of supporting grassroots initiatives like Tabo Mabo. As we've seen, the workers are the first step in the circular economy we are seeking. While the challenges are immense, and we've heard quite a few of those, we can still act. And people like Paul, Hassan, and Eric are eager to act. So thank you for this. And a little goes a long way. So if you want to contribute, and Hassan already hinted to it, please visit our GoFundMe. You'll see the QR code displayed on the slide. And if you have any follow-up questions, please reach out to us. Contact details are also displayed. I want to send a big thank you to our guests. Thank you for dialing in and taking time out of your busy days. Also, say hi to Rose, whose voice we've heard at least for a few seconds. And I also want to thank all the funders from the past who made this work possible. And we're really hoping that we can continue and go as far as possible. Thank you for listening, and I'm wishing everybody Maisha Bora, which is Swahili for prosperity or a better life. Thank you very much. Wonderful.